All right, final hour here on a Thursday. John Dickinson and Alan Stiles in for Damon and Ratto. And now it's time to catch up with Warriors head coach Steve Kerr, brought to you by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. Also brought to you by SFO. Go to flysfo.com/holidays for your chance to win $1,000 toward a nonstop flight from SFO today. Coach, I'm sure being at home for the holidays and getting a win over the Grizzlies and a couple of wins this week has made for a nice Christmas holiday week. But I got to ask you right off the top, how's it been otherwise? You get any fun gifts this Sunday, this Christmas?
Not really. Kind of beyond that stage at this point in my life. But I'm good with just a win. So a win on Christmas Day was awesome.
And really, I mean, how nice is it to be home for the holidays? I know you've said in the past that 8 games can be a little long. You're not quite to that point yet, but when you see the schedule and you're flying home and you got a couple of days to lead up to it and then home for the holidays, that's always a nice thing, isn't it, for a team?
Oh yeah, especially coming off that trip that we were on, 10 days on the road. And obviously it was a struggle, just at 1-5. And I think we landed at 3:30 in the morning when we came back from New York. So that trip was a haul. So to turn it around, get home, win some games, be with the family, I think everybody's feeling a lot better about things now.
Steve, just like you said, that trip was tough for a number of reasons, but one thing that did come from that trip is the young guys got a decent amount of playing time, and now they're starting to play well these last couple of games. Do you think that maybe what happened during that trip could be part of the fruits of the labor now in this homestand and the young guys starting to understand what the team needs from them in order to get these W's?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunity that comes with the injuries to some of the key guys means that the young guys they're gonna have a chance to grow, and I think that's what we're seeing. That always comes with growing pains. There's just going to be tough nights like the 2 in New York, and nothing is ever easy or linear. It just you're going to have some ups and downs, but the guys need reps, and when you see J.K. starting to really become an excellent defender and a guy with a real role on our team, and then you see our two-way guys seizing the opportunity, playing so well, Ty and Anthony, and just overall the team kind of gelling and starting to gut out some wins. It's just great. It's a great sign. You can just feel things starting to shift.
Coach, Patrick Baldwin mentioned last night post-game that he thought for him and even some of the other guys, the second half in Brooklyn, as ugly as that first half was, but you guys were competitive in the second half, and the young guys really got a chance to all play and play together in that second half in Brooklyn. He thought that really helped him and helped the group just get more comfortable and feeling like they belong and can do some things on an NBA floor together. Do you think there's been a help from the end of that game that's maybe carried over a little bit for the guys in these last 3 since you've been home?
Yeah, for sure. I think, we always tell the players that, there's no such thing as garbage minutes. I mean, every minute is an opportunity for a young guy. And the previous night at the Garden in New York, it was a really rough go in the fourth quarter for our young group. And the next night in Brooklyn, we're getting blown out, but those guys come in and, cut 20 points off the lead, and they're knocking down shots, and they're getting some confidence. I mean, that stuff carries over. And I think you saw that last night with Patrick. I thought the game shifted with his 3-point shooting.
Steve, we've been debating this all show long. And the question is this, Coach. Does it feel like your team is starting to turn the corner? I think me and JD are both of the mindset that you're starting to, but you're not really ripping around it yet. Do you feel like your team is starting to turn the corner? And if not, what more do you need to see from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think until we win on the road, it's tough to say we've turned a corner. But I will say that last night's game and the night before against Charlotte, it just felt different. It felt like we had to really gut those games out, and we were doing things that we were making winning plays. One of the things that happened last night, we had a couple of fouls that we used kind of late fourth quarter. They weren't, we weren't automatically giving them, but we were forced into them because of what was happening on the floor. But we weren't in the bonus yet, and so it was just side out of bounds. And I mean, you guys know this, for most of the season, those fouls are free throws because we're fouling so much early in the period. Now teams are getting free throws every time there's a foul. So just that alone for me makes a huge difference. Defending without fouling leads to better control of the game, and then it allows you to be a little more aggressive defensively, late in the games, and that's something that happened last night. So there's definitely been a lot of growth.
How valuable has Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb been, and just how impressive is it for a team to get so much out of two-way players and being ready and making an impact?
Yeah, those guys are really good. I mean, Ty has been in the league for a few years now. He's rock solid. Anthony's a 4-year college player and had a great year in the G League last season. So both guys have a good feel for the game and have been through some stuff. They've got some experience and they just they know how to win. So they've been great contributors for us this year. And with the injuries now, we're really keen on them and counting on them.
It probably too early to worry about it, but there is the 50 game limit on those guys and the playoff eligibility. And maybe if you're healthier, it's less of a problem. But I mean, could they force a difficult decision? I mean, you guys have had to convert guys in the past, and it's really helped you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have both those guys on our roster. It's just, right now it's not conceivable. We do have one roster spot left, but we're kind of hanging on to that, and we'll see where it all goes. So, as this plays out, it's possible both of them could end up on the roster, but we just have to see how it plays out. I know both of them are worthy of spots for sure.
Coach, this is the longest stretch you've played without Wiggins since acquiring him. Have you learned anything more about what he means to the team, in the process of, trying and struggling at times to stay competitive, specifically on the defensive end without him?
Well, I'm not sure that I've learned anything that I didn't already know. I mean, when we got him 3 years ago, it was we were in such desperate need of athletic big wings to guard, and Andrew's been so good defensively throughout the playoffs last year. He was one of our key guys, just guarding every opponent's star perimeter player, and so when he went down, I knew we were going to miss that. But it's emphasized when you're going, night after night on a road trip, and you're facing, these great players, whether it's Halliburton or Brunson or Kevin Durant, or you just from one city to the next, you got Giannis, you've got Chris Middleton. You're just dealing with all these stars, and that's where it's really exposed. Just Wiggs' absence is really felt.
Warriors head coach Steve Kerr joining us here on 95.7 The Game. I want to ask you about Klay Thompson and go back a little bit to the early part of November. And I think you had said at one point in a press conference, Klay probably wouldn't play in back-to-backs at any point. And then I think you got asked about it toward the end of November, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later. And you had said, hey, it's possible, obviously up to the training staff, but it kind of changed. And I'm curious, did the shift come from the training staff, or was there maybe a scenario where Klay Thompson kind of came in and said, hey, I want that option to at least be available to me at some point, even if it doesn't necessarily come to fruition?
No, that came from the training staff. I mean, Klay wants to play every game. It's just a question of whether it's possible for him to do that, and that's up to the training staff. So, Rick Celebrini told me, he said, that it is a possibility that Klay could get there at some point, but, we don't feel comfortable doing that just yet.
Coach, where would this team be without Dante DiVincenzo? You know, he missed some games early, and I was talking to JD about this. He's a guy who, in 2 back-to-back games, he was almost 2 completely different players in the most positive way possible because he knew, okay, Klay's heating up a bit. You know, a couple nights ago, I have to be a distributor. And then last night, okay, Klay's out. I have to be a scorer of the basketball. His ability to evolve into whatever the team seems to need, how important has that been, and how important has he been for the squad?
Yeah, Dante's been great. You know, he had the early season hamstring injury that kept him out of 7 or 8 games, and that kind of slowed his progression and his integration into the team. And I just felt like that once he came back and started to get a rhythm, and then with the injuries that we had, he started playing 30, 35 minutes. Last night I think 38 or 39, and that allowed him to really kind of let loose and get more aggressive. And I think he's found his stride now. I love Dante. He's a competitor. He's tough on the ball defensively. He's a playmaker offensively who can knock down shots, but also be a secondary ball handler and pick and roll. So Dante's a winner. He's tough and gritty, and the guys love playing with him.
Steve, I want to go back to just the young guys and their ability to become better role players, right? We always have this conversation about the high-end ceiling for all of them and what their careers can ultimately be. But then right now, what you guys are basically asking them to do is be role players on a championship team. Is the last 3 games sort of what you guys envisioned it might look like at the beginning of the year, and maybe what's changed from the beginning as far as that's led you to this point where you're getting more out of them when you really need to get more out of them because you're banged up?
Yeah, I think, what was interesting about the beginning of the year is we knew who our top 6 guys were, and then we didn't really know how the pieces would fit after that. And who was going to play? We had a lot of young guys and a couple of new guys, and the combinations are everything in this sport, and we had to figure out which 5 guys fit together and which didn't, and all that kind of stuff. So it's shaking out now pretty well. Despite the fact that we've got injuries, or maybe because of the fact we've got injuries, we're really getting a chance to see the whole roster, but we're getting an idea of who we can count on and coming off the bench and what combinations we can play.
Yeah, and one of the great aspects of the Warrior fan base is how excited they are about everybody, the superstar players and the championship guys, but also the young players. And the question that we get all the time, and I get it a lot on the post game show, is you want this guy to play more. Patrick has a game like he did last night. You want him to play more, and Kuminga's obviously played better, and Wiseman's gotten a little bit of run. As you get healthier, how do you formulate and just kind of explain to the fan just how you formulate a rotation plan for on a given night when you're healthy, right? The guys that are going to play a lot of minutes, but how do you sort of pick and choose between, let's say, 9 or 10, and how you break it down?
Yeah, well, we'd map it out every night and then sort of use that as a rough draft. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to follow the script, but we kind of map it out to try to get to certain combinations that we think will work. And then, of course, stuff always happens. Foul trouble or injuries, or maybe something that's happening on the floor isn't working out well, and you need to add a shooter or, add a big guy, whatever it is. So all that stuff is mapped out beforehand, and then you kind of improvise as you go during the game.
Coach, last time I was on this show with you as a guest with Damon, the talk of the town was the discontinued dribbles, and we had a nice conversation about that. I've noticed, for Jordan Poole specifically, I haven't seen as many calls, and I was just curious, is that something that he's been working on, or the team in general, just in terms of, hey, if they're going to call this a bit differently, we have to change some things?
Right. Well, I think the ones he was called for early on when they really made an emphasis on that rule. To be fair, they were pretty egregious, watching them on film.
Yeah.
And when you watch a game, you can watch almost everybody carries the ball. To me, what the league is cracking down on is the really egregious ones, and so I think Jordan has made the adjustment, and he hasn't been called for one now in a while, and I think that's the idea. I mean, it's just they're just trying to take away the really bad ones, and but it's different. Every crew is a little different. Every officiating crew kind of has their own tendencies, and you have to know what those tendencies are when you go into a game.
Steve, what's clicked for Jonathan Kuminga as far as just defense and energy? And I mean, did you as a staff try and maybe simplify the role for Kuminga? Because I mean, I go back to the Charlotte game a couple nights ago, and it felt just watching almost as if he was willing you guys to the win, which was like, wow, kind of a moment with the rebound and the pull up and the dunk and everything else, the defense, the rip away on PJ Washington there in the corner. What do you think has clicked? And have you guys maybe asked him to do different things, or is he doing more of what you've always kind of asked him to do?
Well, I think number one, he's been really good defensively. We've challenged him with that, and he's worked hard at it. And then I think honestly, what happened was he realized that's his ticket to playing time. He's like all young players. He wants to score. He wants to become a high scoring wing, and he's got that potential. But it's not what we need from him right now, and it's not something that we're really looking to for him to do, because we've got an established team, a championship team. We know how we want to play, so if JK wants to get on the floor, it's got to be at the defensive end, and he's doing a really good job of recognizing that and following suit.
Coach, we watched James Wiseman in that Grizzlies game, and even though it was limited time, he was really affecting shots and affecting the game. How would you say he's coming along, and how would you evaluate his play as of late?
Yeah, James has been good. His stint in the G League was really effective. It wasn't just the 7 or 8 games. It was, more importantly, the 3 weeks of practice. In the G League, you really only play 2 games a week. You got about 3 or 4 good practices, and I thought Seth Cooper and his staff did a great job of really, giving James the reps that he needed that we can't give him up here because of just the number of games that we play. And James did a great job of absorbing that, and it's translating now to the game. I think he's getting a lot better defensively. It's exciting.
Steve, just quick couple of just injury updates as far as just Andrew Wiggins goes and Steph. Is Steph doing anything yet as far as, just any kind of little basketball activities? I know he said he hadn't picked up a ball. I know you guys have a date coming where you're going to reevaluate and all that, but is Steph doing anything? And do you think Wiggins, is he officially out for tomorrow? And what's his status kind of leading toward maybe Monday?
Yeah, so we were targeting last night's game for Wiggs, and then he came down ill a few days ago. So, he was healthy enough to play from the injury, but then the sickness kept him out. So hopefully, a couple of good days of workouts and scrimmages, and he'll be ready to go. And then. Let's see, who else did you ask about? Steph.
Yeah.
Steph has been, he's been doing a lot of stuff on the court. So he's getting a lot of good work in. He's really coming along well, and everything is progressing.
All right, Steve, great stuff. Really appreciate the time as always, and guys will be back next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to you. And, we'll see you down the road.
All right. Happy New Year, Steve. All right, Steve Kerr, head coach of the Warriors.